good to go. Okay, come on. Let's get going. Okay, we're good to go. Hello, this is Brian Scuttle with the Song Cinema Movie Chat. Thank you very much for joining me. If you do join me, it's kind of a early episode. Was originally going to be an hour later at 9:30, but because of the fact that the previous chat that was on tonight ended just a few minutes ago, I decided to go ahead and hop on a bit early. And because I didn't really have a set topic, I didn't necessarily have a set guest. So in this case, we're going to be I'm basically gonna chat a little bit about what's been going on the past few weeks with me. It's been a hectic streaming schedule, I know, because of the fact that I just went back to work this past week or this past month, and that's put a big kink into my schedule. On top of which, I've also had some issues with my mom, which I talked about in the previous stream. She has dementia, and we put her into assisted living this past month. So between that and restarting at the theater, it was a lot to take in, and unfortunately, my stream has kind of been hampered by it. But the fact is like, I do want to make this a regular thing. I do plan on being on next Tuesday as well. I wanted to sort of just come on the chat for a little bit to talk about some of the things that have been going on, some of the movies that I've really liked, some of the movies maybe I haven't. If you have followed me from my appearance on Patrick's new streaming show, which involves 8 question interviews, which I've done in print and now I've done on the live stream, and he was on the Song Cinema Movie Chat a few weeks ago, and it's always fun to talk to him with Patrick. We talked about remakes, we talked about sequels, we talked about the summer movie season, we talked about genre, film festival, we talked about a lot of different things. And it was a lot of fun to do that with him, and it always is. So, the movie theaters are back, and A Quiet Place Part 2 did very well in them, surprisingly enough. But, well, not that surprisingly. It did about $50 million over the 4-day weekend, which is pretty well. And it kind of signaled the fact that people do want to come back to the movies, and the right movie, and a movie like A Quiet Place, I think, is a good one to come back to. And I think I thought it was really good. My wife and I saw it Thursday night. She's been waiting for it since it was supposed to come out in March of 2020, but was canceled right when theaters closed. And it's a really successful sequel. I think it does a lot of the things that that the first one did very well, and I really enjoyed seeing the way John Krasinski continued the world building. Had interesting roles for people like Cillian Murphy and Djimon Hounsou. I completely forgot he was going to be in that movie, but it was nice to see him in a role that we're not completely used to. He's actually an actor. Djimon Hounsou is an actor I've really have always appreciated since he was first in Amistad, the Steven Spielberg movie, and it was just an absolutely beautiful performance. He's done great work over the years, but it's been unfortunate to see him sort of pigeonholed as the muscle in action movies, and it's really disappointing, because if you look at movies like In America or Amistad or even Blood Diamond, he has he has a range that is unexpected and just wonderful to watch. And so A Quiet Place 2 is really good. I really like Cruella as well. I very hit and miss with the live action remakes, as I know a lot of people are. I think I just mentioned on Patrick's chat that I think the only two that have been really great have been Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book and David Lowery's Pete's Dragon, both of which were 5 years ago. And part of the reason and Pete's Dragon being the best, because of the fact that I think it's a true reimagining of the material as opposed to just a straight remake of the movie. And I think that Favreau did a really good job of doing kind of a straight remake of Jungle Book and less of a good job of just basically doing a straight remake of The Lion King. And I'm very hit and miss on the Disney animated live action movies. I think Cruella did really well. I think the performances by Emma Stone and Emma Thompson were really terrific. I don't know if I would pay $30 to watch on Disney Plus. Personally, if you're comfortable going out to the theater, I would say go to the theater to see it. If not, if you feel like that's an investment you want to make, that's fine. But overall, I think there's a lot of things to like about Cruella, and it's because of the fact that it's not just another sort of quote unquote shot for shot remake of an animated film. It's been slow but sure with the theaters coming back. I think as the summer really starts to ramp up, we've got The Conjuring this week, we've got In the Heights next week, and then I think we've got Fast 9 in a couple weeks after that. And I think I think Fast 9 is going to be where sort of like the doors get busted down, I guess. I think as far as big box office, I can see that doing extremely well, and then once like Black Widow and other movies start to come out, you're going to see more of the same with that. As far as Sonic Cinema news, if you haven't checked out our podcast last week, I posted a podcast I did with D.W. Lundberg of Nostalgia Cast, which I was on back in April, talking about how name's rad. We have a slightly better cinematic discussion for you in the work and career of Orson Welles, and in particular Citizen Kane and Othello and The Trial. And I think it's a really great discussion. Lundberg, DW is very knowledgeable. You can follow him on Twitter at NostalgiaCast, and he's talked about Wells a lot on Twitter. So when we were talking about me being on there for Rad, I pitched him on the idea of coming to Sonic Cinema and talk about Orson Welles, and it was a lot of fun to discuss. For June, I'm hoping to have 2 episodes. One that I'm for sure recording this coming week in about parody films, and that's actually going to be with Ricky, who is the host of Crooked Table Podcast. And he was actually, so he's somebody who sort of, I follow him on Facebook, but he actually, so I did binge movies, and we covered numbers 6 through 10 on the highest grossing movies of 1998 on binge movies, and he covered 5 through 1 of that year. So that's how I first heard of him. And so when I put out a call like, hey, I'm interested in having people on, I've got some ideas, I've got some space available this summer, he jumped at the idea, and he actually pitched the idea of parody movies, and it's going to be an interesting discussion. I hope you really enjoy it. We picked 3 really terrific films to cover from probably the 3 names that you're thinking of when it comes to the genre of parodies. And it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about those with him. And I hope to... It's going to be tight to see if I can pull it off, but I definitely want to have Rosa Pera, who is one of the co-hosts of Latinx Lens, that podcast. I want to have her on to talk about In the Heights, which comes out next week. I know she's seen it. I haven't had a chance to see it myself, but hopefully we can fit in before my trip to Savannah in the middle of the month. But yeah, hopefully we'll be able to do that. And but you'll definitely get the Parody Podcast episode this month, and hopefully I do want to have Rose on, because she's a really wonderful voice to follow on Twitter and to pay attention to, and I'm looking forward to discussing more with her. And then we're not sure when the recording's gonna happen yet, but I know I've talked to Morgan and Chelsea from the Untitled Cinema Gals podcast, which I was on in April, and we're going to have a discussion about Hitchcock that I think is going to be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to having that discussion. And then there are going to be some other people that I reach out to with and see what ideas they have for episodes for the podcast. Let's see. Trying to think of what else I want to do. It's been a bit weird going back to the movie theater. It's been especially weird because it's a movie theater that was not my movie theater except for all of 2 days. At the and before Regal closed back down in October, and it's been transition, but it's one that I to a certain extent I feel like I'm starting to get my legs under me at this new situation, new place, and we'll see how it goes in the future. I definitely want to continue with the chat. I will be doing one next Tuesday before I record the Parodies podcast episode, but see, trying to decide what else I want to talk about. I don't know. I unfortunately I'm not as I haven't seen any of the movies coming out in June yet in terms of the major releases yet, so I can't really talk about those. I'm looking forward to all of the big ones. It's disappointing to me that Luca is not going to be on the big screen from Pixar, especially since I've heard very good things about it. And it's funny, I covered a lot of ground with Patrick, but I wanted to come on here for at least a little bit and sort of talk about things in terms of Sonic Cinema. I did want to actually talk about, one of the things I'm doing this year is I'm actually inadvertently doing a big look back on the 1996 movie year, and that was a formative year for me for a lot of reasons. I graduated from high school in 1996, but also was the first real year where, as a film goer, I basically watched everything, or as much of everything as I could get to. And it was the first year I think I had crossed 100 films that I watched. And it's one that I'm going back to, and there are a lot of movies from that year that I've wanted to revisit for a while. In April, I was able to get to Trees Lounge, the terrific Steve Buscemi movie. Yesterday, actually, I did Big Night, the Stanley Tucci Campbell Scott movie, and it's funny that how much I had seen it in theaters and I really liked it, but I had forgotten a lot about it. And one of the things I think I've forgotten, one of the reasons I think it connected with me so much more this time, is because it's a movie that I think is better appreciated when you're older. And I think that's something that sort of goes unheralded when it comes to watching movies when you're in your teens or 20s versus when you're watching movies in your 40s. And actually, it was funny. There was another movie that I just did that with today that I sort of just picked up on a whim because I hadn't seen it in a while, and it's one that I'd been wanting to revisit for a while, but it's one that I just felt right for today, and it was Robert Redford's A River Runs Through It. To talk a little bit about Big Night before I get to A River Runs Through It, Big Night is just, it's a joyous film that looks at the harsh reality of the quote-unquote American dream and what that means, and it's one where the dreams of Tony Shalhoub and Stanley Tucci's characters are not fully realized, but in the end, it's the process by which they go through and find that realization that is so engaging about the film. And that I can't believe I had forgotten about the last shot in the movie. It's probably one of the best endings in a movie. It really is. And if you've seen the movie, you know what it is. And it's probably the simplest cooking that we see in the film, but because of what the emotional implications are of it, it's probably the most powerful. And I just absolutely loved revisiting that movie. It's on Paramount Plus, actually, if you want to check it out. Paramount Plus is it's a sneaky good place to watch some independent films, especially from the Miramax era, because they own a lot of the Miramax catalog, and they have some pretty good choices there. There are a couple more 1996 films from that from Miramax and from other studios that are on Paramount Plus. I'll definitely be revisiting it. And it was the same thing with Trees Lounge, revisiting that. I hadn't seen it since like 96, 97. And I think I appreciate it more now. And I love Trees Lounge. I thought it was one of the best films of the year at the time. I just really connected with it, and I really liked it. And it was good to be able to watch it again and to really kind of be able to appreciate it. And that's on, I think that's still on Amazon Prime if you want to check out Trees Lounge. And I wrote 1,000 words on it on Sonic Cinema. Wrote about 800, I think, on Big Night. And it's been fun to go back and watch some of these movies. And like I said, there are other ones from that year that I definitely plan on doing as well. So with A River Runs Through It, which I watched today, you know, I connect with that movie because I think there are certain movies that you think about with regards to certain people. And with My Mother's North by Northwest, my father, I don't really have one that I think of with him, or at least one that I've seen. And although by the end of the year, I hope to have actually done that, and I'll write more on that with Sonic Cinema. With my grandfather, I think the one that I have the biggest connection with, other than, well, with him, not necessarily just in dealing with his death and dealing with his illness at the end of his life, but with specifically him, one that I watched with him, was probably Wonder Boys, Curtis Hanson's film, because that was the last one that he and I saw together in theaters. Although Waking the Divine, which is the last one we did truly see together, is another one as well. So River Runs Through It, I think about with regards to My Cousin Chad. And, it's not that I don't know, I say it in the review, I can't remember if we ever actually saw it together, but it's one of those things where it's like that movie just, because of the fact that it's about fishing, it's about the appreciation of nature, and it's sort of a memory piece of growing up. I recognize, I identify it with him, and it's just a wonderful piece of storytelling that Robert Redford does in that movie, and I'd forgotten sort of like how unconventional the storytelling is from a cinematic standpoint, because in the passage of time, as opposed to just like flashbacks or just just sort of brief moments and scenes and stuff like that with them growing up, we get sepia tone photographs to go through the passage of time. And it's really an interesting choice, and it's one that works really well in the film. And the cinematography in the movie is beautiful. I'm glad it won the Oscar. Mark Isham's score is really lovely. And, it's that... I don't know if we ever actually watched it together. I want to say we probably did over my grandfather's house one time when we were visiting in Ohio, and he was over and we were watching stuff. I want to say we probably did watch it together at least once, but it's ultimately a movie that I identify with him, and because of the fishing, because of the nature. And it was really great to have sort of some of those memories come back. And I think part of the reason I wanted to see it this time right now is the fact that we're going through stuff at my mom's house, and we've come across some pictures and stuff like that, and looking back, and there are pictures from us in Ohio before we moved down to Georgia. And it's really amazing to sort of have some of these, not necessarily direct flashbacks to that particular time or that particular day, but at least to the experience, to the emotional truth of being in Ohio, being around family, being around friends. And that, I think that's something that really resonated with me, and sort of, so I think to a certain extent my desire to watch River Runs Through It at this time was probably directed by that. It was probably something that I was interested in doing because of that. And it's just one of those things where I think, and I will be doing repertory reviews this month, but it's funny that two of my first reviews of this month are for movies that I sort of watched independent of that series, but was still inspired to write about. And those are some terrific memories, to be able to go back and rewatch those movies and sort of remember why you appreciate them, or even appreciate them even more now, like with Big Night. River Runs Through is not a movie that ultimately means as much to me personally, other than that connection with my cousin, but at the same time, it's something that I have those very specific memory. I have those memories of spending time with him and talking to him over the years that are brought up by that movie. So it's really kind of interesting the way that worked out. I think that's all that I really have to say on this Oxima movie chat tonight. We're going to keep this one short. I wanted to at least jump on the stream because it had been a couple weeks, but I do promise to be here next week, next Tuesday, before I record with Ricky from Crooked Table on the Sonic Cinema podcast. And check us out at www.sonic-cinema.com. I've got some more reviews coming this week. Hopefully, might even have some interviews coming in the next couple weeks. And just in general, check out the patreon.com/SonicCinema. I hope to have something for you there on this month. And as well as the Sonic Cinema Podcast YouTube channel on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, on Spotify. And that's it for this episode. This is Brian Scuttle. Thank you very much for joining me on the Sonic Cinema movie chat tonight. I know it's a short one. There's not really a whole lot more to say. Check out Patrick's YouTube channel. Have Cheetah Will View. And you can see my live stream with him tonight. And it was a lot of fun to do that with him. But this is Brian Scuttle, and thank you very much for joining me at the Sonic Cinema movie chat.